Welcome to the Unsidelined Life, the podcast that challenges and encourages women to stop denying themselves a full life and to step boldly into the opportunities God is preparing for you. Join me for raw insights and engaging conversations to guide your journey of self-discovery and pursue the life that God created for you. Welcome to the Unsidelined Life. This is Eileen Noyes, your host. I'm excited for this episode. I have lots of guests that I know from the Packers, but it's always exciting to have new friends and a person that I'd never even known before. So just a background real quick of how I met Jessie. I believe it's through an NFL. So there is this Facebook group that has been around since 2016. I only joined it last year to literally say, hey, if anybody wants a PDF of my book, like, get a hold of me. And so I've just been in there planting seeds, doing the thing. I started the podcast, which for sure has been like growing. People are watching it with every episode, every different guest. There's more people that are just kind of, just catching wind of this. So it's super exciting for me. And just, again, just to meet new people. So I have Jessica Powell on the show. So excited. Like, we only known each other for not even a month, but when we've chatted, it has been just natural flowing. And those are always the relationships that I love. And it's not, especially when it comes to, I would say, this pro sports world, it's not easy to find. And so I know that this is like an ongoing friendship. We're both tomboys, which I love, because I knew this. I'm like, I get to wear my sweatshirt and my tank top in peace. And I always do, but it was just like, I always feel like I should dress up for the night.
They dress up.
Yeah. So Jessie, let's just hear more about you, your history with NFL, who your husband is, your kids now, just all that stuff. And then we'll take it from there.
So I am Jessica Powell. I'm from Louisville, Kentucky. I met my husband in college. We were 19. He was 18. I was 19. And we were friends for several years. Ended up dating for 9 months, engaged for 4, and now just celebrated our 14th wedding anniversary. So the friendship was definitely the foundation of our relationship. The engagement and the dating went pretty quickly, but the marriage is long. And so we got married senior year of college. So we got married in January. The day after we got married, he went to a bowl. I think it was the Senior Bowl down in Alabama. And then it was all she wrote from there. He got drafted in April to the Jets, but that was the lockout year. So we didn't get to do the OTA thing. All summer, we were just waiting for them to lift it. Moved to Jersey the day that they lifted the lockout. So had my son first year, got pregnant. He was a camp baby. We always joke around. He thinks it's funny. And like, you're a camp baby. And then that was April of 2012. And then we had Naya 2.5 years later. So now Tavis is 12, Naya's 10.
Okay.
And we now live in Kentucky. We moved back full time in 2020.
Okay. So you said the Jets.
Yeah, we were with the Jets.
And only the Jets.
9 years. Yeah.
Okay. See, and this is where when we first talked, I was like, oh yeah, I was 9 years and on one team and you are too. Okay. Yeah. You said a couple things. Okay. So just to kind of give people background, what are OTAs?
Okay. So they are basically in the off season, you have training that you go in. It's usually till noon. So you go in from like 8 to 12. They do workouts. They cover their playbook. If you are contractually signed to a team, you should be at OTAs. Those are kind of the off-season, workouts.
Okay. So we're talking January, all spring, basically. Spring.
I would say March, April, May, and then mandatory minicamp would be in June. So he missed all of that, which is so important for a rookie. He was, that rookie year, he missed out on that.
Okay.
Foundation of getting in the building and getting acquainted to everybody and all that. So,
and you said that had to do with lockdowns.
Yes. Yeah. It will, the lockout. There was an NFL lockout between the NFL and the NFLPA.
Gotcha. Okay. And then you said a camp baby.
Yes. So,
Are you talking
wow.
about conception or are you talking about delivery?
Talking about the conception. He was a conception. So we were in Morristown, New Jersey. So the facility for the Jets is in Florham Park, and I remember driving up with my mom. We had our car packed, drove everything up, and he's like, "Hey, you gotta tell your mom to go. I gotta come over." So I think he had like an hour break, and I know he's a camp baby because in that 6 weeks, that was it. So
Okay. Okay. So, okay. Again, I have
he
to
was
make sure.
made out of missing love.
Oh my gosh, that's funny. Okay. So for all of you who don't know, I'm sure all like the pro athlete wives are giggling because we know exactly what you're talking about. But the ones that don't know, so she's talking about training camp. So what, end of July, almost a month where the guys are off to. So for the Packers, it was like a college campus. I'm not sure what you guys like. It, basically a different facility. They don't go home. They don't sleep. It's single wife life and us, you know, holding on the forts while the guys are just fully into that preseason training. And so that's what she's talking about. It's just hilarious. Like, get rid of your mom.
Any wives or any like significant others, I'm like, yeah, Tabs is a camp baby. It's just an understood thing. Like, oh, I know what you're talking about.
That is so funny. Okay. Hey, I love it. Like, let's get right into this. Okay. So again, you got into the league. I'm looking at dates here.
2011.
Okay. Okay,
Yeah.
so what was the biggest change for you? Like coming in, because and it seems like like a lot of my guests, they're like high school sweethearts, like even younger than that. I mean, I would say a lot of them, not all of them, but so yeah, how did things change for you as you know, because yeah, you knew each other for a long time. So
I went through the college life with him as far as football goes, and I was very intentional with learning the playbook. He wants to not only learn his position, he almost has a quarterback mindset. He wants to learn the entire playbook. He wants to know where everyone is going. So, in the future, he would learn he had so many offensive coordinators. He had to learn the playbooks like that. But he got there and he said, listen, I have got to focus. I signed a 4-year deal, but nothing is guaranteed to me. So I have to focus. And so it was just a change of dynamic as it's not a Monday through Friday we're in class and then he goes to practice and comes home. It's all day. I mean, especially during camp, that was a huge transition for us. I'd never experienced anything like that. I was gone all the time. And then, him coming home and studying the playbook and the iPads that they went through. And it was different. I had to adjust to saying like, whoa, I have to take a back seat for him with football way more than I did in college with the Jets that first year.
gotcha. Was that like a strain or did you handle it well? I mean,
well, I had never moved away from home. I went to college in my hometown. So being away from home, and then I was very lonely. And then on top of it, I was pregnant and dealing with that whole hormonal change. So the first year was very hard for me. In Jersey, I mean, I have some of my closest friends from Jersey now. The Northeast is aggressive in their personalities. And my dad's from Boston, so I thought I was aggressive. But living there, I just thought those people don't like me or they don't like me because I was overly friendly, being from the South. And so it was a different struggle for me.
yeah, that's interesting when you talk about the culture, yeah, where you're going to. And I didn't even think about them, but that's true because my husband is from like Boston, and I'm like, gosh, you guys could be amazing. Like, but it's like it doesn't even phase him, or if he gets, and I'm not talking about like necessarily me, but like when he gets snappy, like it would take me a lot sometimes to make a comment or like to get angry or something. And so if it takes a lot, then it takes a lot for me to like let it go versus like he says a comment and I'm thinking, oh my gosh. And it's just like just done after he said.
That's kind of how I am. And I got a taste of my own medicine because, my dad being a Southie, I'm like, I should have known. I use my hands all the time. I'm pretty brass. And so when I got up there, I'm like, whoa, and then when you learn to just say, this is how the North is, it is what it is.
Yeah. Okay. So you're pregnant like, okay, it's cold. Like, how was that experience for you? Like going to games? How was it making friends? Yeah, how was that? Because I know we had talked about a couple things, but I want to.
I tried to get involved the first year. I do take blame on myself for being probably super emotional. I was young. I just got married. First year of marriage, I was pregnant and we moved, to Jersey. So it was a lot on me. And then there was already an established wife group that first year. So the first year was nobody was mean or anything. It was just more so I didn't feel that was my crew until, probably going into the second year is when I put myself out there more.
So that first year you did that, what changed? So you said you're out there more.
So there was a lot of vets. So for those of you that are listening that don't know what that is, so there's rookies and then there's vets. So the vets on the team were a tight knit group of the wives were close. And coming in, the reality of the NFL is not for long. So sometimes there are women that are coming in and out. Sometimes there are players that were coming in and out. And so I totally now being 9 years in and then removed, see why maybe they weren't guarded, but just like, let's just see how she is, or let's just see, not that I agree or disagree, but I can empathize with that. And so second year, I did take the invitations from the Jets more. There was a group of women that would invite us to Bible study. I did get involved in going to the gym. Lifetime Fitness was amazing to us in Jersey. There were wives stuff that they did together that I would participate in. So I did get my feet wet with that and do a little more. But I always just, for the first couple of years, just missed home so much. I just wanted to go back home. I miss my friends. I miss my parents. And so it was hard on me.
I've definitely heard of Not for Long, but I never really put it into the coming from the angle of the woman.
Yeah.
I didn't even think about that. And that's so true. And it's interesting because I think of like how, so here's another similarity with us. We can't compare this to any other team. So I know the Packers did a great job with like, just the wives or the women community, things like that. And so when I hear stories from other women where they don't really have connection, it's just like, wow, like
I do think a lot of it had to do with me almost not wanting to participate because it was such a hard adjustment for me. There was the player development guy, his wife had us over for dinner. I think Mark Brunell was the quarterback that year. And he was leaving the next year. His wife would have us over. So it was more so I was young. And then the majority of the people were on their way out. The weird age dynamic. Yeah. It was a weird just adjustment for me in general. And so I kind of told myself that second year after I had Travis, you cannot be an unhappy mom. Like that doesn't work. So you got to figure it out.
Did you feel any shift, or did you feel like, okay, because again, 9 years is a long time in the NFL. So did you feel a shift for you that, okay, do you feel a responsibility to the other women? Did you feel like, okay, I mean, and not everybody does feel like that. I know for me, and again, I look at like experiences before. I looked at that as like, oh my gosh, like I am actually one of the older wives to teach the younger wives how to love their husbands and love their children. That's what the Bible talks about. And I took that to heart. I think it's in 1 Timothy or something like that. But I was like, or maybe Titus. But I was like, okay, like I like that role. And I mean, you like when you're 30, you don't think you're old, but I just knew I was like, oh, like I wanted to step in that role. I wanted to help them. And partly because I know, just like you, like I got in October. So I missed all the big first functions. And yeah, you just kind of walk and you're like, gosh, like where do I belong? And so it takes time. So did you feel a shift?
I did. I love talking. I love gathering. I love hosting. And so we had a very solid group of girls. My probably last four years there, I remember specifically, Blau had a 30th birthday that I planned, and I really think the entire team came. I mean, everybody
No.
came. We had a ball, and then after that, we planned each Halloween party after that. And then I hosted the Bible studies, which turned into let's just all get together and talk about life and use our faith to figure these things out. So it became a gathering more than a Bible study. We didn't really teach specific things each week. We just said, hey, let's check in, let's talk about A, B, and C. And then I started planning things for the women. And I had a really good best friend for the last 3 years there. They actually were getting married, and I had never met her. And Blau said, hey, we're going to Ohio to this wedding. Like, okay. And then from then on, we became like best friends. So the last several years, I had the most amazing time. The women were amazing. We all got along. We all loved going to the games together. And so I think that's why we'll get to this later, but my transition was kind of hard because I really enjoyed myself the last 4 years or so.
Wow.
So, yeah. And I loved it. It's so weird saying you were the old one, but I was the old one. I was the one that was there the longest. I knew everyone in the building. I mean, I had the Jets doctor on speed dial for everything. He's probably like, oh my gosh, Jesse's calling me again. So that they became like family. Everyone became like family. So to move out of that and you lose your family like that, it was hard.
So let's talk about that. Like, so you're talking about transition out of the game. Like, did you see it coming? Did you feel, did he feel like, uh-oh? Because I know that it's totally different. You get in and one that recruited you, when they aren't part of the coaching staff anymore, that right there is like, here we go. And it in theory. This doesn't last forever. It is not for long, but it still doesn't feel good. And so, like, did you guys see it coming? Like, yeah, how was that for you?
Yeah, he had a horrible neck injury in 2018. It was October of 2018. And I remember seeing him laying on the ground. He kind of like dropped the ball. And if it's a concussion, you can usually tell if it's a concussion the way their body goes. But this was different. This was like his hands locked and then rolled. And then he just laid there. So I remember I was up in a suite, and the Jets are awesome with this. They offer a daycare for the kids, the families.
Okay.
It's underneath the stadium. So I remember going, I love the Jets. The tunnel that goes to the locker room is out of the daycare. So I am going through the daycare, and then I go out the tunnel, and a guy at the time that like knows me, he's like, you are not going in the locker room. I'm like, yes, I am, boss. And in hindsight, I look back and they're like, this crazy girl. But I said, his name's Montel. I said, Montel, go tell him to text me like right now. And so, Blau texted me and he said, it's the same as last time. So stingers are usually one injury. So if you get hit and it goes down one side of your arm, this was a double, like both arms. And this was not the first time that it happened. And he was warned if it happened again, it could be serious. So I called a friend. She grabbed the kids for me once we got home, and we went to a doctor in Manhattan. And I remember him coming in and handing me a tissue and saying, you have two options. You can retire today, or you can have surgery to repair this disc that almost, took you out, paralyzed you. And then you have a 70% chance of recovery. And the turnaround time is 9 to 12 months. Now, this is year 8. So Blau's old. He's considered old in the league. And so I started crying, and he said, can you give me a minute? And the doctor left. And I looked at him, and I'll never forget him looking at me and saying, I'm going to have the surgery. I'm going to do it as soon as I can. And God's going to heal me, and I'm going to play next year. And I'm crying. And I said, we need to think about this. He said, I'm not done playing. We don't need to think about this. I'm okay. I am going to get the surgery. So he had to get C3, C4. The disc came out and nicked his spinal cord. So he had bruising on his spinal cord. And the doctor said that he could have been paralyzed, but the way God created his neck was thicker. His spinal cord was thicker than a regular person's.
Wow.
And so the thickness of his spinal cord allowed it to just bruise instead of sever. So he ended up having surgery. But I was planning his 30th birthday, and the next week was his 30th. And I mean, I had spent a lot of money on this birthday party. Everyone on the team knew his agent was coming. So he's calling his agent in the doctor's office while I'm texting him, like, he cannot have the surgery next week. I have this party planned and I can't cancel the party. And so, the agent and I talked Blau into waiting. He said, you take a vacation first. You guys go down to Miami or something, take a vacation, and then come back, have the surgery, and then go, rehab in Kentucky. And so it worked. We ended up having the surprise birthday party, ended up going to Miami for like 4 days, and then came and had the surgery. So he had the surgery. He had this machine he had to carry around on his neck every single day for like 7 hours. And every night, the kids were so little, and we would all lay on the bed and put our hands on Blau, and we would pray for him every night and say, like, Lord, if it's in your will for him to play again, heal him and show people who you really are. Like, show people who you really are. And so in Kentucky, so they wanted to see him in, I think, 6 to 7 months. So in like March or April, I think it was April, he's like, hey, I don't feel anything. Like, I feel great. I'm like, well, it's only been 4.5 months, I don't know. He said, I'm telling you, I'm fine. Nothing's wrong with me. And so we have a friend that his dad's a doctor at University of Kentucky in Lexington, which is 45 minutes from here. So he called, he said, hey, does your dad mind just reading an x-ray for me?
Wow.
Like, I'm going to go get an x-ray. Will you read it for me? Or CT scan. And so he did. And the guy called and he said, you're fully healed. There's nothing, you're fully healed.
Wow.
So he calls the doctor that did the surgery, and he said, there's no way you're healed. Like, send it to me, but I need to get a CAT scan of this. There's no way you're
Because it's supposed to take 10 months.
Yeah. And this was at 4.5 months.
Okay.
And so, sure enough, the doctor calls and he said, I don't know what you do or who you pray to, but whatever it is, it healed. And I've never seen this in my whole life. 4.5 months in. So technically the doctor couldn't release him till month 6 because he just said, like, in my doctor's opinion, I don't want to take that chance. And so then he was healed. The doctor signed off on him and the Jets signed him the next week for another year. Yeah. Which was incredible. So that year was kind of wishy-washy for us. We weren't sure it was coming. But then when he signed the next year and played, I'm like, oh, well, here we are. Like, we're back. And back in Jersey, back with all of our friends. And then after his 9th year, so he finished healthfully his 9th year. And then he had his exit interviews. So those are where you go after the season's over, you meet with either the head coach, the GM, the owner, or scout, or whatever they put you with. You do your exit interview. They tell you, how you did that year, what their expectations are, if you're a free agent, whether they want you back or not, etc. And the GM at the time said, the door is open for you if you want to come back for year 10. And so we went home thinking his goal was to make it 10 years. We're going to just play out 10 years and he'll retire. Well, the year came. They signed another veteran running back. It was a new coach, new, GM, and it felt like betrayal. And I know my husband felt betrayal. And watching someone play the position that you were supposed to come back and play, not position, let's talk about role. He was supposed to be the old guy in the room, right? The one that was going to teach the young guys. So to have someone else come in and take that role felt weird because in our minds, we're like, no, that's our team. That's our home. That's where, you're coming from another team. You haven't been here for this long. So it felt weird. The next year, he was like, I still can play. I'm going to play, which happens a lot. We did start dabbling into building homes and real estate at home. But the next year, then COVID happened. And so after that, we were like, it's not going to happen. So he actually went out to LA, tried out. They offered him a contract.
The Rams?
Where was
or the Chargers?
Chargers. The doctor said, you've had this injury, you're old. I don't recommend you play, but I can't not, approve of this because you're fine right now. This is not safe. If it happens again, you have 2 bulging discs, something horrible could happen. So he called me and he said, I'm coming home. I'm done. And he said he cried in the shower. He talked to God and said, if this is what you want, this is what you want. And he came home. So it was very weird how it ended. It was an elongated, unnecessary process. I guess if he knew it would come to that, especially who knew COVID was going to happen, So it was different, but no, we were not prepared for the full transition because it was almost like a waiting game for 1.5 to 2 years. So then it finally happened. We're sitting like, okay, now it's really over. Now you don't really have to go to the gym and stay in shape. You don't have to train anymore. I don't have to, in my mind, think, all right, he might have to leave. It was just over, which is, I have a degree in communications and he has a degree, but you miss out on your entire 20s of a career. I'm already a little step behind, even if I used my degree. So then I'm thinking, what am I going to do? So it was different. It was not expected the way it happened.
I just listening to you, I'm like, whoa, what you described, we in so many ways just went through it a decade before you. I mean,
crazy.
like coming to just all the things, a knee injury he'd never had. I think he got some sort of surgery. Oh my gosh, I can't even believe it. I remember, but it was like an injury of some sort, and he got cut on Halloween. But I don't know, and we were looking to build, which was a distraction. So we started building like right during that time. So that was a 2 to 3 year distraction, which that's the distraction of him being the GM of like the project.
Kept him busy.
Yes, it totally kept him busy, totally kept him preoccupied. So we're building, and then he got into certified financial planning. And so, it does. It takes a while for you to see, oh my gosh, this is the grieving process is not, I don't know who even talks about that. It's like you end and it's like, okay, for the fans, it's like next. But for you, and I think for the man, it's just like, you said he cried. I'm sure a lot of them do. And I'm sure like he'll tell you, and maybe the guys will talk about it amongst each other. But I mean, it's definitely not an easy thing. So
yeah. I also think it's like an unspoken thing among us where, oh, like you said, on to the next. Yeah. And then we're supposed to uphold this image or this lifestyle after the NFL. And when your kids get older, you just can't travel or do what you want to do anymore. Even if the income was the same, even if the lifestyle was the same. But 2, having like unrealistic expectations of fellow women or fellow couples that have transitioned onto reality, I don't think it's fair for us to think or say negatively like, oh, that person lives in this type of house now, or that person doesn't, they don't drive the same car. I saw them trade their car in, or they're not wearing this anymore. One, your image changes because your purpose, I guess is what you could call it, changes. And then when your expectations of everyday life changes, I looked forward to Sundays. Bilal's schedule was Monday through Saturday football. Tuesdays were off, so we knew we had an off day together. Friday we went to New York City for dinner. So I knew my schedule every single week for 17 weeks. And then when he was on the West Coast, I get 2 days at home. I'm going to clean, or I'm going to meal prep, or I'm going to whatever it may be. I knew my schedule. And then that's 17 weeks. January, February, we're usually traveling. Those are our travel months. February is the Super Bowl. We always went there and did events. And then March, he starts training OTAs again. So every single year of my life for almost a decade was planned out. And then now he's like, yeah, what do you want to do today? What do you want to do today? It changes. And so I think that if everyone would just say, hey, everyone is walking this walk, trying to do their best and handle it their best, and not be afraid to say, hey, yes, I struggled, because you're afraid of the judgment of the person on the other side, or you're afraid of someone thinking they don't have it all together, or did they spend too much money while they were in the NFL, or, whatever it may be. We have to have better expectations for each other, I think.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
If someone said, my husband's really struggling with this transition, on social media, her life looks perfect, but she'll say to me, oh my gosh, me too. Me too. And that's where I think we need to be more real with each other.
Yeah. And that's where we share the same heart. And it's crazy that you say that, because, man, it's like the picture that is painted in so many ways. It's like you just have to sit there and kind of take it. And like, just like what you're talking about, because I know that I've thought about it, or, I've kind of just reflected more of like me as a woman, but just as a couple, or, like the whole thing, which for sure, especially I think I have to fight it. I feel that perceptions when it comes to family, this is going to be a little bit tough. So when we played,
I love that you say we, because it's so true.
Yeah,
We were.
I know it's weird, because you're right, it's true, but it's like awkward to say. But so during that time when we played, a couple of things is, yes, like your contract and the money that you're supposed to make is on the bottom of the screen scrolling through ESPN, and that's all that people see. They don't understand that it's a contract. It is like paid. Certain amounts are paid every year. So it's not guaranteed, all that stuff, but that's what people see. And I think that there's a part of me that, we're in Green Bay, all of my family, both sides were in California. And so there was kind of like I didn't realize like the pressure or the expectations or different things. I think it was just easier because we were away. And so then as life happen, and then you go to your area, you go to your hometown, in so many ways, it's like, I just feel like, oh my gosh, like people are perceiving this even now. I think I'd made a comment that, like, I was a stay-at-home mom, right? I've been a stay-at-home mom for 20 plus years. I am trying to go out there and do these things, pursue this other part of my purpose. So I'm not doing it yet. I'm not making all this money. And so people, it's like this perception, like, well, you had an NFL husband. Like, well, yeah, I did. And he got done, and we divorced, and I have 8 kids, and I have 7 step kids, and we're in California. So this doesn't last forever. And so, yes, I got to do something. And so it was this thing of like, you don't have to go to that, or you don't have to work. And it was like, and so again, it's like, okay, well, I could either take the time to fight it and try to convince them differently, or just say, you know what, they're going to think what they want anyway, and leave it alone. It's not even worth like my time. And so it's just interesting how that whole dynamic.
Explaining yourself constantly. I mean, we lived in Jersey. We had a house in Kentucky. So you live in Jersey, and people don't know, when you're in the NFL, you have to pay every state and every city that you play in. I don't know if that's just a Jersey rule or whatever it may be, but every city, every state we played in. And then we had to, obviously, the taxes, you're giving a chunk of money for taxes, 3% for the agent fees. And then you say, okay, we tithe 10% the entire time he was in the NFL. And so then you have, outside people like, oh, but I want this, or I want this. And then you have to save for your future, because what Blau made in 9 years has to last, all of these years. And then you have kids, the cost of AAU ball and private school and whatever it may be. So I think people don't realize, I know it's a big chunk of money. I know it is, but you also have to live off of that money, and you also have to invest it properly. And you also have to realize, during COVID, how many people didn't have money saved and couldn't comfortably live through that whole year of nothing. And so, we prayed all the time, thank you, Lord, for allowing us to have money put up for days like this, or whatever it may be. So yeah, I just stopped. I finally said I am no longer going to explain myself to anyone. If they think I'm A, B, or C, then I'm A, B, or C to them. And it is what it is.
Yeah. Yeah. And like I always tell my kids, hey, like the truth sets you free. Like if
Yeah.
you know it, you can't why waste the time? Okay, so you had mentioned one thing. So like, okay, so as I, met Jessica, I was going through like these like questions on how I can best serve the NFL women. And you had mentioned something that I didn't that I had not heard from anybody else. I guess in the way that you said it, where you're like, yeah, like self-image and things like that. That was like something that you had struggled with. Can you like talk into that before we go into life now?
Yeah. So I grew up with no money. And so I would, shop at the Goodwill. It's called the DAV here. I would, get hand-me-downs. My home was so full of love, but the monetary value of it was just not there. And so I never took liking to fashion or liking to any of that. I mean, the cool thing to do in Louisville is to wear like Ugg boots, leggings, and a hoodie, right? So when I'm 23, married, and go to Jersey, I'm buying like all these Ugg boots and cute hoodies and Lulus, and I'm going to games and I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm like, oh, I mean, Instagram wasn't that big then, but Facebook was big, and I'm like, these women are like going all out for these games. This is crazy. And so, I would post my pictures, and I remember Bilal posting a picture of me one time, his rookie year. It was my birthday, and first or second year. And these teenagers got a hold of that picture, and it was, I was being tagged in this picture, like this old lady, look at, this is an NFL wife. What a joke. Glad you married your grandma. Like crazy stuff. I remember one time on Twitter, we did an event called One Love for the GM's wife at the time. And somebody tagged like way to marry a whale for a wife, just crazy stuff. Right. And I remember thinking to myself, I never want him to post me again. Like I told him, delete everything off your Instagram, Twitter, whatever you have, delete me off of it, because I cannot handle people saying these things about me. And it really, really got me down and shaped in a negative way how I looked at myself. So anyway, moving on into the league, I did get into fashion. I mean, we were in New York, right? So I got to see the coolest new things, and I ended up loving, the bags and the shoes and the sunglasses. I mean, I did. I thought it was beautiful. And I did change the way I dressed, because I did look at it as, this is a chance for me to dress up. We're going to the city dinner after the games, but it really did. I became, I don't want to say vain, but I did become very overly self-aware of how I looked, how my hair looked, what was done, type of thing. So, yeah, that false idea of what an NFL wag should look like is one of the things I hate the most about being a wag, because it's not realistic. I mean, there are people that really love fashion and that's their thing. But then there are people that, like, you're not impressing the men, you're only impressing the women. Like, men,
Such a good point.
men,
Oh my God.
men just don't care what you have on. Realistically, like, they don't care. It's the other women that like, oh, she's got it together. Oh, did you see how her hair looks? Or, her shoes looked bomb today. And really the guys are like, yeah, babe, you look great. Like, and he already knows what is going to happen when we go home. I think that is the truth.
Yeah.
And so I think now I work in a gym that's what I do. So, I mean, I'm always in leggings and hoodies or gym shorts and tank tops, but that realization of me wanting to one, portray a healthy image for all of the women that knew who I was and now know this is my life now. But two, to let everybody else know, like, you do not have to look or, portray yourself a certain way for you to have value. That is not what, one, God cares about. He doesn't care about the outward image. The Bible says it. And also, you can be the prettiest thing and have the ugliest personality, and it gets you nowhere.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. Well, thank you for being vulnerable with that. Thank you for being real with that. So we talked about this. I've not seen it. You have. I think it's called Wags to Riches.
Wags to Riches. Yeah.
Since I have not watched it, I can't comment. I do know this much, that because I don't like that term either. I feel like the initials are obviously it's wives and girlfriends, but the way that they're taking it, that, and now that it's more of a, this is the term, I look at it and I'm just like, okay, they're talking about not, and again, I don't know them, but they're not representation of all of you, of all of us. It's the Taylor Swift, it's the Brittany Mahomes, it's the ones who have a clothing line or different things like that. And it's just that they're trying to create this image of how she's supposed to be. And if you don't look like that, then you don't fit the bill. And so I'm like, gosh, there's such a misrepresentation. So as the show, again, I haven't seen it. I think that it kind of helps because I know this much, that, and we've talked about this, like, I'm realizing more that as I continue with the show and as I have different guests on, I kind of have to vet it because I want to make sure that this foundationally, one is, I can't deny it, it's going to be to an extent God-centered, but it's going to be positive. It's not going to be gossipy. It's not going to be bashing. It's going to be classy. And it's going to be like, hey, there's a real person behind this whole facade thing. And so I don't know if you've seen it.
I watched the episodes.
You've watched all of the episodes?
I've watched all of them, yes. So
how many is there? Is it new?
There's just 8 episodes. Yeah, I think it just came out this week. I will tell you that I am a reality TV junkie. Like, I love watching, because I know it's scripted. Let's start there. So if you look at it like it's a storyline, I think it's a little different. Mm-hmm. A lot of people don't think there's a storyline, or they don't realize it's scripted. Mm-hmm. So I do know 2 of the ladies on there, not well. One of them was brand new into the Jets when I was there. She was always very quiet, but very kind to my kids. Cute as a button, just very shy, I guess. But now when on TV, she says, I'm just reserved. I protect my peace, which obviously I got that from her. She was a great person, though. The other girl that I know there was a big gathering for, it was like the Eagles, the Knicks, the Nets, the Jets, the Giants. A friend of mine put on a wives of professional athletes in New York City. So we all got together and had a big gathering of women. I mean, the girls from the Eagles, I think, drove the 2 hours. It was fun. Yeah. The one girl that I know from that, she actually is a very, very nice person too. But those 2 are portrayed very kind on the show. So the actual title of the show, Wags to Riches, is truly wives and girlfriends to riches, because they focus on these women that are successful and have made their money, yet they did such a poor job of focusing on, one, reality TV is going to have drama. So they did create drama. The girls were not nice to each other. Petty things. And 2, I think that they did not show anything with the athletes. There's a boxer's wife. There's a football player, basketball player, a couple football players. Why are we focusing on like baby mamas on this show? Like, why are we not talking about the wives that are holding it down at home? And
because it's boring.
Yeah, it's boring. Our lives are boring. I mean, Sundays are the days that they want to see, not the Blau came home with the flu and now I've got the kids down in heat, or, just everyday life. My hair's in a pony. I have no makeup on and I'm doing it again just because that's what my season of life is. And so I get it. The events are exciting to record, but I do believe that this show was definitely scripted with drama. What I don't like is that they allowed Netflix to create drama between women that should be building each other up. It's
Yeah.
just not right.
Yep.
And then, there's, this, people know this about you. People know this about you. Well, that's all fine and dandy, but like, this is not what I represent. This is not who we are as what a real WAG is. If you want to talk about these women that have professional athletes as spouses and their success, do that. But don't necessarily connect that to WAGs, if that makes sense.
Yeah. And I mean, and it's like, who knows what, I mean, you're signing this off to be portrayed in a certain way. So it's like, they can't, say, yeah, like it is what it is. And it's sad to think like, gosh, they're going to mold an episode to make you look a certain way. And that may not be you. So yeah, there's compassion there. There's definitely like, I'm staying away from that kind of thing.
You would never want to get on a reality show as far as anything containing, because there is false. It's just not, it's not real.
Yeah, and I wouldn't put a price tag. Like I wouldn't like.
No, I don't want to. And we live in a social media world. People are going to chew you up and eat, like spit you out. One of the girls posted a picture of her in a coat and said, "Who was your favorite character so far?" Well, that should show people right there. Like, that is not real. I do wish people could see what our real lives are. Like, how about we get a camera and record us going to training camp with our little babies running around and being in the heat and not getting to see, our husbands, and the cliche comments of, yeah, but that's what you signed up for and you get money for it. Doesn't make it any easier. It doesn't, And so I do think that there are women listening to this right now, or that will send this to someone else. And I just want you to know, if you feel like your life is boring because in this season of life, you have decided to support your husband and, be there for, I feel like football players are gladiators. I mean, they're putting their lives and they're putting pads on. They have to go to a mental space of like warrior every time they step on that field. Then they have to come home and switch it off, which is a whole nother story. I was a warrior. I didn't care about the person on the other side of that line. I wanted to basically take their heads off, but then I'm got to go be daddy and hubby. That's a hard transition in general. So if you're listening to this, you're doing a great job in your present space, doing what you need to do for your family at this time, and you have no one to impress, because when it's over, those same people will not be there.
This is why I have Jessie on the show. Like I have to tell you something. So, I have mentors. I have people who help me in my walk, coaches, different things. And I talked to someone last week and she prays for me. I don't even know her that well, but she prays for me. And she called me and she's like, "Hey, I've been praying for you, even though we haven't talked that much lately. I've been praying for you. And God wanted me to relay a message to you." And she said, here's the thing about prophetic. When someone says that they speak prophetically, it says that it's in part. So it's like, she's just kind of giving me a part of it. And it's almost like, okay, I receive it or like I test it and then I have to, ask God about it. And so in like receiving it, it's like, okay, I know that this is just a part of it. Maybe there's parts that I don't know and so anyways, what she told me was, I'm praying for you and God is saying that you're not quite ready and God's healing you still. And I'm just thinking, how much longer? And as she's talking, because at first I was like, I wanted to be defensive. I wanted to be like, you don't know me. But yeah. I was like, okay, let me hear her. Let me hear what she has to say. And at the same time, it totally confirmed what I was thinking. Because like, as I said, like as more people are learning about this, I'm hearing women say, yeah, I can't wait to share my story. And so as I'm thinking about this, it's like, I have to step back. And like I said in the beginning, it's like, okay, I really have to pray and ask God about this. And how do I put it in a way that if I say, hey, I know you want to share your story, not now. I know this much, that she said to me that I'm still being healed and I'm healing through a lot of things. This was thinking almost 10 years ago. And she's telling me, hey,
Yeah.
not quite yet. So if I just processing that and understanding that, then there's these women who are fresh off their wounds, off their hurts. It allowed me to see it from that perspective to say, hey, you know what? Like I know you want to share your story, but in this space and place with maybe the blind spots or maybe the wounds, it is not time right now. And
Yep.
then even in the coaching space, understanding like you look at life like this and you're seeing it from these eyes, it's going to change. You're going to look at the situation that you just went through different eyes. You're going to see them through eyes of forgiveness. You're going to see them through eyes of healing. And so it's like the same situation is right there, but how you look at it, how you approach it, and how you talk about it is going to be completely different. And so it just confirmed, like, I got to take this slow. I can't just go, okay, oh, good. People are finally like listening to it. And then I can, it's like that ambition to go, oh, if I get this person, that means all this team will hear about it. And, so it's like, no, I can't do that. I want to make sure that I save this space because this is from God. And so having you, who I didn't know very well, but knowing like you're seeing and obviously hearing you, your maturity, your heart, your way of honoring your spouse, like all this has been like awesome. And so gosh, that went by fast. Like a couple things. I always like to you would kind of answer the question. There's always a question for me that I asked the prophet wives is like, knowing what you know now, what would you tell your younger, the younger ones, not necessarily your younger self. But two, this is why also I had you on the show, is because my brand is Lady Bellator. Lady meaning royalty, and then Bellator is actually a UFC term, but it means warrior in Latin. And so as I saw through Facebook, I'm like, oh my gosh, she's like, I don't even want to say what, like, you're in the fitness world and you do, like, is it boxing classes?
Yeah. Yep. I teach boxing classes.
Like,
so yep.
Go for it. And then I know that you have a couple things going on. I'm not sure timing wise when this show is going to air, but I know you have a challenge. I know your husband does stuff. So yeah, have at it. And I'd love for you to just, talk about these things.
I started doing cardio kickboxing in Jersey. A wife at the time that I was there invited me to go to a class with a guy that was doing cardio kickboxing. They're both incredibly successful now in the fitness world, but I fell in love with it. And so I kept doing that. When I moved back to Kentucky, I started doing knit work with a guy that was training. He was a fighter. And then he passed away. So I took about a year off from boxing. And then Rumble started. And so I saw it just open in Louisville 6 months ago. So I messaged the manager and I just said, hey, like, I have a lot of experience in boxing, cardio kickboxing. I study for NASM, which is the, training to be a personal trainer, group fitness instructor. And so, hey, I really want to do this. And I got on a call with a lady that trains in New York City. It started in New York City. And I've been training since September. So I love it. You do multiple different exercises, squats, push-ups. Everybody in my class knows they're going to do burpees at some point during that. And then you do usually 5 rounds on the bag, 3 minutes a round. And I teach you different combos. And it's been awesome. There's nothing like boxing. I try to tell everybody, even if you think you're unathletic and awkward, if you hit a bag, you feel it releases, endorphins. I always say exercise is the best for the 3 S's and the E's. Self-image, it improves your self-image, how you feel about yourself. Sleep, you sleep better when you exercise. The E is the endorphins, little chemicals in your brain that release, that make you happy. It's the happy stuff. And then stress, it reduces stress. You feel way less stressed when you exercise. So those are the things that I always tell people. There's nothing like working out. If you are in your basement for 15 minutes, you pick one exercise, do it 3 times, 5 minutes a piece, and then you're good, So I am a very big advocate for exercise and, even mental health. I'm a big advocate for mental health because of what I've seen my husband go through after transition from the NFL to life after football. There are women listening saying, my husband is great. I don't know what you're talking about. Either he jumped right into something and he's staying busy and he has not worked through and pulled back those layers of, I had a very strict schedule. All of them played in college. Most of them were pretty significant in high school. So we go back to however your husband is, how old he is. Take that back to the age of 13. Let's just say 13. He has had structure his entire life. He has been told what to eat, where to go, when to show up, when you need to go home, everything. So if he is jumping right into a new career, it's because he needs it. He needs structure. So to the younger girls, know the end will come. So one, always be prepared that it might come when you don't expect it. Two, make sure that you give yourself grace and you give your spouse grace. I have seen many people say he has changed. That is why the divorce rate is so high. In the NFL, a lot of men don't know how to cope with this change. You know, my husband now speaks for mental health advocacy. He did think about taking his own life in 2022. He speaks about it. He thought he was worthless, we would be better off without him. Why? Because he doesn't feel like a provider anymore. Even though he has money coming in, even though he makes money, there is a false narrative that these men feed themselves of, I'm not making millions anymore, so I'm not worthy. And that is not true.
Wow. Yeah.
Two, I think that they feel insignificant because they can get up when they want. They can go to bed when they want. They really don't have to do anything if they don't want to. So I think that creates, I always tell people when I'm training them, an idle mind is the devil's playground.
Yes.
So you are not continuously feeding yourself the word, feeding yourself positivity, and then you're looking at, let's say, social media and how wags are supposed to look. You're going to destroy yourself.
Mm-hmm.
So give yourself grace, give your spouse grace, always be prepared. It might happen when you least expect it. And then after that, give yourself even more grace, because this is year 5 for us of not playing. He retired in 22 because the Jets did this big thing for him. So we waited till COVID was gone from, all the necessary mask mandates and everything. Then even now he coaches, he runs his nonprofit. There is still something missing. And every now and then I'll look at him and say that your life will never be the same as it was in the NFL. You don't have the chef. You don't have coaches. You don't have the responsibility of getting on Sunday, the preparation and the crazy endorphin high you get from running out of that tunnel. It's gone and you'll never have it again.
Right.
So you have to make that adjustment. There are lots of women that are now texting me, the younger women that were on the team, like, how are you? Because this is hard. It's going to be hard. You're transitioning into a different aspect of life. It's a totally different life. We lived a life in our 20s that some people never live. And we were given an amount of money in our 20s that some people will never make. And so it is important for us to have the sisterhood and them to have a brotherhood of, are you okay? And really mean it. Like, are you really okay?
Yeah. Right.
Me and my friends, like, we have these big, beautiful houses, but we get bored because we used to go back and forth to different cities. I mean, and I don't want to say regular people that don't live our life are like, you're so ridiculous. You're, not grateful. I'm so grateful. I'm so blessed. I'm so thankful for everything. But my reality and my struggle is different than your struggle or your struggle.
Yeah.
So yeah, grace, forgiveness. And as bad as you want your husband to be the same, it might take him some time. He might struggle with his mental health. And there's a stigma around men's mental health, especially athletes' mental health, that you're supposed to always be on and okay. And that is not the truth. They can say they're okay, but they're not okay. And so if you have empathy toward that and tell yourself, the way he is reacting toward me is not because of me. It's because of him. Pray for him, encourage him to get counseling, encourage him to be inconsistent therapy. Because they might tell their therapist something that they never would feel as a man they could tell you, because you're who he has to take care of.
Yeah.
That is what I would tell these young women that, are in there. Enjoy it now. Enjoy it, because it is fun. It is exciting. There's nothing like it. Have your nice dinners, do your off-season trips, but no, the end will come.
Yeah.
It will. And to be ready.
Girl, like, high five. Like, today I'm like, okay, you can just take on over, because you nailed it. You've given such wisdom, great perspective. I can't wait. I feel like God has a future for us. I hope,
For sure.
But I'm so looking forward to it, because people need to hear you. I mean, look, I don't know how old you are, but like I said, you're like a decade after me. And for me to hear you and to be encouraged. And I mean, I'm literally like nodding my head at everything, because I'm like, oh, yep, she gets it. That's what's going to give relief and a peace and just a sense of like, someone gets me, that they're going to need. So,
doesn't mean I don't try. It doesn't mean some days I go home and I'm like, I am exhausted mentally from today, and I have to make sure my cup is filled as a wife, because some days there are days when I'm frustrated and down, and some days he is. I have to fill my cup, which is why I love fitness. So find something that you love to do, fill your cup up, so that you're not like, I need this from you. I need this from you, because marriage is not always 50-50. Sometimes it's 80-20, sometimes it's 70-30. If you feel like you're not getting from him, that's okay. Fill your own cup up.
Yeah.
Ask God to fill your cup up. You're supposed to be his partner. He's supposed to be your partner. Sometimes you have to lift your partner up.
Yeah. Totally. Girl, I loved it. I feel like we just know each other forever. And so, just looking for, so, okay, we are over. Thank you, Jessie, so much for everything. Okay. So you're in Kentucky. You're part of Rumble, right?
Yeah, Rumble. Yep.
Okay. All right. Those of you out there, check her out. I would love to do that. I've never done a boxing class. I'm sure.
It's so fun.
Yeah. I'm sure it'd be awesome. So, okay. Thanks.
All right.
For the show. Thanks for everything, Jessie. And yes, Bilal, right?
Bilal. Yeah.
Okay. Please tell him hi for me. And that I look forward to meeting him sometime.
Sounds good.
All right. Bye, guys. Until next time, love well, celebrate your strength, and discover the new things you are capable of. You are a light in the lives of those around you, and no night is too dark for you to find your way.